Okay, guys, so today we're going to be doing the Brainpan challenge on TryHackMe, and it's by far one of my most favorite ones because basically it's one of the closest ones that comes to a real world scenario where we have to reverse engineer a Windows executable and find a buffer overflow and exploit it on a Linux machine. So I've already started the machine so that all the services are up and running, and let's see. So let's first enumerate this address. Let's see what's running on this address. So I have my virtual machine running, and let's just copy this address. And as you can see, I have my virtual machine running, which is connected to the TryHackMe Open VPN. And now, before we get started, it's always a good practice to make the directory we'll be working in so that we can save all, as I was saying. It's always a good practice to make a directory where we'll be working out of, right? So let me just come here and make a YouTube directory, and then let's just go in and Brainpan. Okay, sorry. So first, let's just that's and let me just cd into. Okay, now that we're all set, let's start our enumeration process. So I'm going to be using a threader 3000 so that it can check the ports that we need to see and then do nmap scans accordingly on those ports. So while this is running, let's go and let me just talk about a little about what this kind of scan is. So it's a basic buffer overflow scan where we basically override the memory that the application is running on, and then we inject our payload into that. If you guys don't know what a buffer overflow is, I would really suggest you go and see online, because this hack is a bit more advanced and challenging, and it'll do you really well to have a basic background on the thing. So as you can see, our scan shows that there are two ports open, 999 and 10,000. So I already went in the browser and checked, and these are not accessible directly on their 8080. So the next step we do is we run a GoBuster scan, and what it does is it's gonna check the possible URLs that might be hidden, not really hidden, but if you don't know the address, you won't be able to access them. So I'm gonna try with 10,000 port 10,000 first, because I know that on port 999 it's just an application running. So it's gonna okay. I can see where the issue is. Sometimes when you copy paste between Windows and virtual machines, it does give these errors. But now this time, so it's testing on this URL, and in the meanwhile, let's just do an nmap scan. So as you can see, threader 2000, what it does is it narrows it down to the ports that are open, and then does an nmap scan on the ports accordingly. So you can see this is suddenly giving us lots of errors. And why is that? Give it the port, assign. So okay, so it did tell us that there's something on slash bin, and the rest, maybe the connection on TryHackMe side is a bit s- so that maybe we can try that again. HTTP 1070 on this port, and I'm giving it 50 threaders to work on, but it did show us that there's something on bin. So now if we go to the web browser, our nmap scan has also finished, and we can see that there are two ports open. So on port 99, there's something called the Abyss, and it's running something called Welcome to Brainpan. Now, this isn't really that intuitive because the name, as it suggests, it is called Brainpan. So let's just move to the other one. So the other one is what we like. It's an HTTP server. So probably it's serving some sort of application there. I already checked, and so this is the IP. Gonna come over here, I'm gonna paste that. It told us that the port is 10,000 and there's something called bin. So let's see. if we can access that. So again, opening a browser inside virtual machine is kind of slow. That's why I always try to keep my uh, direct all my traffic to my main Windows one. However, because we're connected through a tunnel, we won't be able to access this IP address until we're connected through the open WAN. So it was while this loads, we can come back here and we can just see what is running on port 999. So let's just netcat in verbose mode into that machine, and it requires, so as you can see, there's some sort of application called Brainpan over here, and it's asking us to enter a password. So and access denied. But the good thing is it's allowing us to enter something, so that opens gives us an opening for buffer overflow where we can overflow the data using inject some malicious data and our payload into the application. And I'll show you how to go about that. But so over here we found something called Brainpan XE. So apparently how this exploit works is that we are going to download this executable, and then we're going to launch it into our own Windows 7 virtual machine, from where we're going to test it, try to hack into it, and once we have our payload ready and all the things that it requires, we can launch our attack on the main site. The reason for this is because firstly we won't be able to test it because we can't log into this Windows, and secondly we only get one try at this exploit, because if we do it wrong and we inject and it doesn't return a shell to us, it's going to crash the system on the server side. So then we'll have to spin up a new machine and all that. I already have a Windows 7 running, but I'm not going to keep on switching switching window panes and going back to it. Instead, I'll simply use this X-free RDP, and it's going to provide us with that Windows pop-up inside of our virtual machine. This is a really cool thing to do, so that everything is running inside my Kali machine. Now, the reason I'm going fast for this is because it's a bit of a long video and I want to cover everything as quickly as I can. So let's just launch Brainpan over here and see if it's running. So we have Brainpan and it tells us that it's running on 999. So previously, so I'm just gonna close Mozilla because it slows us down. So last time we connected on this IP address. However, this time we're gonna try to connect to our own local machine. And as you can see, now I'm connected to Brainpan again, but this time it's running on my own Windows virtual machine. So now again, if I do this, now let's see what options does it show over here. So it told us that someone connected and wrote down password. So let's see if I can crash this machine. Uh, I'm gonna do netcat again, but this time I'm gonna use Python and tell it I'm gonna program it to give me, let's say, 1000 A's. So I have 1000 A's right here, and let's just send this data to our machine, and look at that. The moment I sent it over there, it crashed the program. That means it's vulnerable to, it has no checks on the maximum amount of data we can send it, and it allows us to crash it. So now we'll be using Immunity Debugger. And for those who don't really know what this is, I really, uh, you know, I'm gonna urge you guys to go check out buffer overflows and basics of that. But basically, it's gonna it gives us an environment in which we can test our applications. So I'm just gonna go here and open my Brainpan, and I'm gonna run that. So now I know it crashes on 1000, but I want to be a bit more precise for this. So now I'm gonna so in order to do this, I already have a Python script that I wrote, and previously I did write it all that, but it takes a little bit of time. So I'm just gonna go through or go over how I actually wrote it. So we have our import socket, import system. These are the modules that you need to connect to it. Then you have to give your IP address to where it has to connect. The port, Then simply we create a data buffer list in which it keeps on adding 100 every time it tries to adds 100 on every try, and that way it's going to tell us exactly when did it stop, what's the maximum amount of bytes it can go up to in 100 increments to stop. This all the code I wrote myself. I'll upload it. I'll give a link down below, or I might upload it to a GitHub repository, and you can use the same code. Although I would suggest you write it, because when you write it, it's easier to remember. But I've added all the notes and proper places where you have to modify and specify your own things. So we have our fuzzy, and let's try that. So we have our machine running, and if I go back here, I have this saved. Okay, so let's just file save as, and I want to save it into the current directory I'm working in, right? So I'm going to save that there so that I have easy access to it. And now if I go here and I run python 3 and fuzzy.py. Okay, so another error, that obviously because I haven't really made my current directory that directory. So now if I run, you'll see that it tried sending 100 bytes, 203, and at 700, after 700 it crashed the program right here, and as you can see it's paused. So the program has crashed successfully on 700. But now we want to reach this EIP. This is the point after which we know that we can write the code over there. So for that we have to find the offset.